prosecutor Brian Gaither and criminal defense attorney Joseph Tully. Brian, I'll start with you. 78-year-old man, I was shocked to find out he was a 78-year-old man, allegedly shoots his wife in the head, cuts her up, leaves a trail of evidence, points the police officers to the storage unit where the rest of the luggage is found, yet he's going to plead not guilty. The only thing I can think of is maybe he's going to claim that maybe somebody else did it, or there's some mental health issues there. What are your thoughts?
I was thinking one of the two. We're on the same page. I was thinking, because what stood out to me is that he's a disabled vet. He's 78 years old. It'd take a lot for somebody that's even healthy to do all this. This clearly was like a scene from the movie Saw. So I was thinking possibly pointing to somebody else, or possibly some kind of mental health as well, because, you know, who knows what the trauma he could have faced being a veteran. So I was literally thinking the same thing you was thinking.
Yeah, and that's what I thought when, you know, the military service was brought in. You know, 78 years old, you know, things start happening mentally. So that's the first place I went, because again, you're married for 78, you know, you're 78 years old, you've been married obviously for a number of years, and this is, and if someone's shot in the head, you can't claim, you know, oh, she fell and she died and I got worried, or I got, you know, scared, so I did this. You know, we've heard that claim before, but under these circumstances, hard to claim that. Lori Vallow-Dable, Joseph Tully, a lot of people claiming, what's the point? She's already put away for the rest of her life. She can't get the death penalty for conspiracy in Arizona, although they do have the death penalty. What's the point of prosecuting her there? Is that a waste of resources?
I mean, it certainly is a waste of resources. It's going to be a lot of resources. The only thing that it can do is bring some kind of peace to the victims' families and to the community. That, look, if you do something horrible, we will at least you will get your day in court against the monster that did it. That's about the only justification that I could see.
Yeah, every jurisdiction wants their pound of flesh. And Kay Woodcock, who's the sister of Charles Vallow, did say she wants justice for her brother in Arizona. So that's certainly a consideration. I want to move now to Cardi B. This is an interesting one, Brian, because I was surprised, first of all, that there was an investigation. Second of all, that they decided not to bring charges. Some interesting facts here. She had asked people to throw water on her earlier, but that had ended. And then somebody decides a little later on to throw some water on her, or whatever you threw on her. So I get the fact that she was angered by it, but it doesn't give you the right to throw something at somebody. So your thoughts on a decision not to pursue any criminal charges against Cardi B?
Well, you know, in a lot of jurisdictions, provocation is a defense to a certain battery. So, you know, she asked people to throw water on her before, and somebody decided to throw water in her face. So, you know, technically, from a legal standpoint, if I'm defending her, you know, she responded to something that was disrespectful, and it just happened. So that could potentially be a justification. However, just from my, you know, if I was talking to her just, you know, as my counselor side, she does have a lyric saying that, you know, she has to work on her anger, and I would agree with that. You can't just be throwing stuff at people. You got to really, you know, you got to control yourself.
Yeah.
But legally, there could be an argument that, you know, she was provoked and, you know, she responded to that.
Yeah, I see that. I can certainly see that. And you're right. I think what it shows more than anything is that there are anger issues there. I was certainly thinking that, you know, with these incidents with her, that might be something that they would take into account in deciding on charges. Joseph Tully, really, I want to get your thoughts on the decision not to charge Cardi in this case.
You know, I'm actually happy with it. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our court system is that prosecutors aren't separating the wheat from the chaff. And we're ending up with these overburdened court systems where nobody has the time to do a case properly. This was technically a battery. As Brian said, there would be a defense of self-defense. You know, you battered me by throwing water on me. I threw my microphone in your direction. And I just think that shows good judgment not to waste financial resources on this issue. I think it's, you know, it doesn't belong in a courtroom, and I'm glad somebody exercised good judgment.
All right, interesting point. All right, gentlemen, stand by. It's time for a break. Folks, the verdict is in for a Philadelphia Eagles player accused of kidnapping and rape, and it is not guilty. So what did you think of the jury's decision? We're going to share some of your comments when we come back. The TV, the front row seat to justice.
These are everyday people caught up in a plan to commit murder. But just who is the puppet? And who's pulling the strings?
Accomplice to Murder with Vanny Politan, coming up next, only on CourtTV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, new revelations in the case of the accused Long Island serial killer. Will break down what we've learned about the suspect and the ongoing investigation.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on CourtTV.
I'd like to say thank you for everything that you have done, for paying attention, doing your due diligence, and listening to the testimonies. Judge Powden, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done. I'd like to thank my family who have supported me from day one. I have done nothing wrong, and I'm glad that was proven today. So thank you again.
It is time now for today's Talk Back segment. Each day we post a question on CourtTV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions and then respond right here on the show. NFL player Joshua Sills was found not guilty on all charges in his rape case today. So we asked you, what do you think of the verdict? All right, still here to discuss, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Brian Gaither and criminal defense attorney Joseph Tully. All right, gentlemen, our first comment comes from Bren. Bren says the jury was spot on. Having followed the trial from beginning to end, the evidence just wasn't there. I'm glad the Philadelphia Eagles merely suspended him so that now he can go back to football and hopefully have a lucrative, successful career. Joseph Tully, he was just kind of a bit player, but I was also shocked that the NFL did just suspend him. Generally, they'll just cut you and leave you out there, but they do their own investigations into these cases. They do extensive investigations. I know some of the people in that department there at the NFL, so I know that they're very thorough. So it was interesting that they never really got, cut him or cut him from the league, but just suspended him, which now he'll be reinstated. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. I think that normally speaking, a big organization like that, they don't want their brand to be tarnished. And if it's a choice between, ending the career of somebody who's, not a marquee player for them, or versus their brand, they'll err on the side of, look, we're going to protect our brand here, and we're going to cut you loose. So it was very interesting and possibly very telling that they did not cut him, and it might have been the result of very good defense work that we later saw in court during his court trial.
Yeah, I agree. Our next comment comes from Alan. Alan says, yes, they did with the evidence presented, but I do feel like something inappropriate probably did happen. And Brian, that's what's interesting about this case. And that takes me to a question about what we heard when we first came into this segment, where he was addressing the judge gave them the opportunity, everyone in the courtroom really, to address the jury and thank them for their service. But he got up, he didn't take the stand, but he was able to get up and say that, this was proven in court that I did nothing wrong, which, again, I don't know if that was proven in court. They just couldn't prove that he did do something wrong. And the victim's family there, and he's able to get up and say that without having to take the stand. What did you think of the judge's decision to allow him that opportunity?
Well, the judge has the right to allow him the opportunity. Now, was it the best taste? I don't think so. He won his trial. Like I said earlier, that in court, it's not whether you did it or not, it's whether they can prove it. And a not guilty does not equate to an innocence. It just is what it is. So I don't think it was the best. I just don't think it was the best practice to stand up and, we don't really know exactly what happened, honestly. But the jury did its job, found him not guilty based off the evidence that was presented. And I just don't think that was the best. I think it was in poor taste. I think that could have been skipped.
I can see him wanting to say that because he's been going through this ordeal, and he may think that. But the judge allowing him the opportunity is what I had a little bit of an issue with. All right, our next comment comes from EM Square 2022. I don't agree with it, but I knew they would find him not guilty. Just had a sinking feeling. Who would believe a woman versus a hero football player? Joseph, is that what you think happened here? Was this something about, and again, he might have been a hero as a younger guy. They went to high school together. He was at Auburn, then went to the Philadelphia Eagles. But again, not a big star at all, just a bit player. Do you think that played a role?
I do think that, it's weird if we go by decades. Up until about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, celebrity status almost equated 100% to not guilty in a courtroom. But here, I think that it did play a role. I think that the pendulum is swinging a little bit from the Time's Up, Me Too movement. I think it swung back a little bit more towards the center. I do think that the jury, if anything, I think that it made the jury actually adopt the presumption of innocence and the burden on the prosecution that they have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think that the jury did the right thing here, given the facts and the law.
Yeah, this was a tough case. It took 3 years to come to trial. There were a lot of reasons why, but I think part of it was maybe the case wasn't as strong as they wanted it to be, because I think the investigation wasn't as strong as they would have liked it to have been to corroborate her story. So at the end of the day, he is not guilty, and maybe he'll get a chance now to return and continue his professional career. Good luck to him, and good luck to the victim as well. All right, Joseph Tully, Brian Gaither, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Really appreciated your insights tonight. Coming up next, we're going to review the 3 things we've learned today and the cases we've been covering from coast to coast right here on CourtTV. Here are 3 things we've learned this busy Friday. First, an Ohio jury acquitted Philadelphia Eagles player Josh Sills of raping and kidnapping. He was charged with kidnapping and raping a former high school classmate back in 2019. The jury deliberated for nearly 3 hours before reaching a verdict. Second, officials in the Long Island serial killer case in New York identified the remains of yet another victim. She's identified as 34-year-old Karen Vergata of Manhattan,